Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. When you're just scrolling through your daily news feed, it's really easy to see everything as just a list of isolated headlines, right? A standoff over here, a market dip there, maybe a storm somewhere else. But if you take a close look at the briefing from August 10th, 2026, a totally different picture emerges. It is an absolute masterclass in compounding global risks. We're talking about a situation where one falling domino doesn't just knock over the next one, it knocks over the entire table. So, what does this all mean? What actually happens when geopolitical standoffs, economic shifts, and climate extremes all just collide on the exact same Monday? See, geopolitics, massive tech investments, severe weather, they just don't exist in silos anymore. They are deeply and sometimes pretty dangerously interwoven. Today, we're going to look past those individual headlines and map out exactly how these massive systems are reacting to one another in real time. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly hit the Hormuz standoff, then look at some economic warning signs, the massive AI power grab, compounding climate risks, and finally, how we're actually navigating all of this uncertainty. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, the Hormuz standoff, or geopolitics and energy on the edge. We've got to start at one of the most critical energy bottlenecks on the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz. To put this into perspective, roughly a fifth of the globe's oil and liquefied natural gas shipments normally pass through this one narrow waterway. But right now, it's essentially paralyzed by a 5-month conflict between the US and Iran. 15. That is how many vessels belonging to ADNOC, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, have been attacked in the strait since this conflict began. So this isn't just diplomatic tension anymore, this is a very severe physical risk to global shipping. And while indirect communication is happening through intermediaries like Oman, the actual flow of global energy is basically being held hostage by competing demands. And here's exactly why that maritime agreement is totally stalled out. Washington's demand is straightforward. They'll lift the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports, but only after commercial shipping can resume without any impediment. Tehran's demands, on the other hand, are pretty multifaceted. They're asking for compensation for military damage, sweeping sanctions relief, the return of frozen assets, and a total end to military action. And just to complicate things a little further, Iran recently shook up its security leadership at this critical stage, tapping former Revolutionary Guards commander Mohsen Rezai as the secretary of its Supreme National Security Council. It's an incredibly fragile standoff, and global markets are watching very, very nervously. Which leads us to Section 2, economic warning signs, and some truly unexpected shifts in the labor market. And this brilliantly illustrates how geopolitical anxiety bleeds right into our domestic economy. Because while everyone is watching the Middle East, the engine of the U.S. economy is suddenly flashing some unexpected warning signs from the inside out. The U.S. labor market didn't just slow down a bit. It unexpectedly lost 23,000 jobs in July. But the absolutely crucial detail here is that second data point. Downward revisions wiped out another 103,000 jobs from the previously reported May and June payrolls. That completely changes the narrative of the summer economy. It points to a much, much sharper weakening in hiring than anyone initially realized. Which brings us to a massive inflection point happening this coming Wednesday. Investors and employers alike are practically holding their breath for the July consumer price report. Economists are projecting headline inflation to come in somewhere around 3.4%. And you can literally feel the tension here. If employment is weakening this fast, is inflation finally moderating alongside it? Or are we looking at the dreaded combination of job losses mixed with persistent price pressure? Let's pivot a bit for Section 3, the AI power grab, where compute, capital, and power are all colliding. Now, here's a really fascinating quirk about the modern global economy. While a lot of traditional businesses might see those job numbers and delay their expansion plans, the biggest players in the tech sector, they are completely ignoring the economic slowdown. Instead, they're pouring money into a massive, localized arms race for AI infrastructure. Meta isn't just writing software. They're pushing toward a staggering 14 gigawatts of computing capacity by next year. NVIDIA is reportedly dropping up to $3 billion in a data center developer called Lancium just to secure direct access to power. Apple, they're partnering with Alibaba's QN service in China to handle regional compliance. And Samsung just unveiled a 400-layer prototype memory built specifically for advanced AI workloads. This is the defining Monday trend in tech right now. Vertical integration in AI. These massive companies aren't just building models anymore. They want to own the entire pipeline, from the raw electricity needed to run the servers all the way to the customer endpoint.
And of course, this massive power grab is happening against a backdrop of fierce regulatory debate. We've got President Trump claiming that federal proposals could regulate the US AI industry right out of business, while at the exact same time, over 1,100 tech employees are actively calling for American-backed international standards to manage the risks of these advanced models.
Let's move to our fourth point and see how this all builds. Compounding climate risks and the physical multiplier effect. Because here's the reality check. All those data centers, all that massive energy consumption, and all that global shipping, it literally all relies on physical infrastructure. And right now, severe weather is acting as this massive physical multiplier on human-made risks, pushing our energy grids to their absolute limits. Take a look at the sequence that just triggered two unusually intense Haboob dust storms in Phoenix, both hitting the highest severity scale developed by researchers. Step 1 sets the stage. You have severe drought and exposed dry land. Step 2 brings these incredibly intense thunderstorm downdrafts that slam right into the earth. And Step 3 is the result. Walls of dust lifted high into the air, creating a massive haboob with zero visibility. This is way more than just a weather anomaly. It's a compounding infrastructure threat that can totally halt transportation and strain local grids. And zooming out, the macro picture is shifting too. Scientists are closely tracking a developing El Niño in the tropical Pacific. Current projections show ocean temperatures could rise a full 2 degrees Celsius above the seasonal average. A powerful El Niño of that magnitude, it shifts global weather patterns entirely. It ramps up the risk of heavy precipitation and severe coastal flooding from California all the way over to Florida, threatening the exact local conditions and physical supply chains that the entire global economy depends on. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Navigating the Uncertainty, and how we're adapting to the new normal. So how on earth do we adapt when the shipping choke points are squeezed, the labor market wobbles, tech companies are racing for the power grid, and the climate turns hostile, literally all at once? Well, adaptation is happening everywhere, every single day. Thermo Fisher is projecting massive growth in India as biopharma research expands. Health investigators across 15 different states are frantically tracing distribution records for a cyclosporiasis outbreak tied to contaminated lettuce. Public health agencies are out there urging families to verify their MMR vaccines because of the highest measles totals we've seen in decades. In tech, OpenAI is literally pausing portions of Project Astra to investigate if their AI has offensive cybersecurity capabilities. And out in the real physical world, employers are having to manually adjust work periods and rest breaks for outdoor workers just to survive the dangerous, record-breaking heat sweeping across the plains and the southeast. So the absolutely crucial point here is summed up perfectly by this quote from the morning's brief. The theme isn't just a list of bad news. The theme is compounding risk. The geopolitical standoffs impact the fuel prices. Those fuel prices impact the inflation reports, which then impact the labor market. Meanwhile, AI companies require unprecedented amounts of electricity right when dangerous heat waves are pushing those local power grids to the brink of failure. Every single system interacts.
Which leaves us with a really vital question to think about. The world is more connected now than it has ever been in human history. But as we vertically integrate our technology, as we rely on single geographical choke points for our energy, and as we push our physical infrastructure to its absolute limit against a changing climate, are we actually building resilience into the system? Or are we just setting the stage for a much, much larger domino effect? Keep looking past the daily headlines, keep questioning how all these systems connect, and thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer.